Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien after the team's big win.
Definitely, every win in this league is very tough, especially coming off a short week against a great team. Disciplined, fundamentally sound, hard-nosed team, and to come in and take care of business and fight 60 minutes is great.
It's a good team win. Guys came in here on Monday to turn the page, and we're very focused and very tough game. Very difficult game to win, but I thought the guys really were focused this week, and it showed up on the field.
Okay, so the Texans take sole possession of first place in the AFC South at 7-4. The Colts now 6-5, putting them outside the playoff picture. Looking back on this, was this a must-win game for the Indianapolis Colts? Their chances to hit the playoffs are much slimmer today than they were yesterday, and there were a few huge plays. They were little plays, but they were huge in the impact of this game at the end there. I mean, Jacoby gets the ball back. Timeouts, all of it doesn't work out. What'd you make of the end?
Yeah, you know what? This was an interesting game, but it was a great win. Before we get to some of the controversy, a great win for the Texans, because you lose 41-7 in a game where everyone's picking you apart and 72 hours to return to the field and find a way to win. I want to call out Brennan Scarlett. Brennan Scarlett is the guy who made that stop there on 4th and 7. Brissett, we could talk about the play calling decisions, Kay, and all that, and we will from the Colts. But here's Brissett. He's looking. This looks like a first down to me right now. Go, you got it. And Brennan Scarlett, not J.J. Watt, not Whitney Merciless, not Jadeveon Clowney, not the Honey Badger, all these stars they've had in Houston over the years. It's Brennan Scarlett, an undrafted special teams guy, usually from 2016, who makes the play of the day. And then yet, this game we can't escape a Thursday night game without some controversy. We can't escape one
I don't really even want to.
This is what happens at the end, because here's Watson. And Kyle, you mentioned it. Under 2 minutes, it's completely up to the booth. Now, the other part of this that Colts fans are upset about is that 10 seconds ticked off the clock inexplicably while the refs were talking about this. They never got that back, so they never were able to have the ball and get one last shot. They don't go to a booth review. If you watch the ball here, it comes out of Watson's hands. It's in Leonard's hands. Watson falls on it. They kind of talk to Frank Reich for a second and then say, nah, let's go. And then quickly, the Texans snap the ball, and on we go, and the game ends. And
Looked like Darius had it.
Wait a second. It's the NFL. The Texans won this game. You can't rely on that if you're the Colts.
Yeah.
Hey, Jacoby Brissett, make a play at the end of the game. You don't have to worry about it.
And that's just it. You don't let it get to that point. And I don't want to sound insensitive or dismissive to any game that's going to end like this, because it happened yesterday. It will happen this weekend, and it will happen in the future. But as a player, whenever a mistake was made and we thought to ourselves it could have went either way, maybe it's a booth review or a referee should have made a call, I always look in the mirror afterward and say, what could we have done? Coach could have put this game away. There were some moments where you thought to yourself, all right, they got Deshaun Watson on the ropes. Jabal Shear tips that ball, Moore intercepts it, they get the ball back, all of a sudden they're rolling, they get in the end zone. That should have been the momentum that carried them into the victory, but it didn't, though. Deshaun Watson played great. You know who played better? Those wide receivers. I know yesterday, Kay, we were talking about DeAndre Hopkins. What's going on, DeAndre?
Yeah.
And I said, it's Will Fuller. And I know that they have a strong running game, but Will Fuller is the ultimate X factor. He can catch the ball over the middle. He can stretch the field. And what happens is once he starts cooking, the defense has to adjust. Just think about it. If you're a safety and you're looking at your cornerback and you know that your corner can't keep up with a guy that can run a 4.2 or a 4.3, then all of a sudden you have to shift your focus on another side of the field. Even to the point where DeAndre Hopkins' first touchdown, the safety, the corner, the guy over Will Fuller, all collapsed on him. Now, it was a broken coverage, but for some inexplicable reason, they were all looking at the fastest guy on the field. And what happens? DeAndre Hopkins wide open in the end zone. If Will Fuller can stay healthy, he will be the greatest compliment DeAndre Hopkins will ever have his entire career. And if he does stay healthy through the rest of the season, he's going to be one of those X factors that can help lead these guys into the playoffs and possibly Miami.
We certainly saw it against the Colts last night. Of course, Rock Ya-Sin, their corners are banged up. They've got a tougher road ahead.
They do. And don't make the mistake this morning of saying the Colts are done. Do not ever count them out, guys. We'll get into it later in the show.
Okay.
But I would double back to the end of that game. And, Nate, you're saying somebody in Indianapolis got to make a play. Darius Leonard made a play. I mean, the game was over. Deshaun's going to run it out, and the best defensive player on the Colts made an incredible play where he found the star quarterback, stripped it, and got it. And I'm frustrated this morning. If I was in Indianapolis, I'm screaming,
What?
You got to look at it. And here's where I sympathize with officials. I think they also have to wrestle with this is Deshaun running around, and maybe we whistle a little bit early. We're trying to protect him. But this was clearly a fumble, and if there's any doubt, can you please at least look at it? If not, maybe you couldn't decide who got it, and I get that. You got to look. And I think they dropped the ball there.
Play call was crazy, too. A shotgun on third down, and you're running the quarterback. Like
I don't know why you don't give it to Hyde.
Could have taken a knee, could have given it to Hyde. Like, it was a very bizarre play.
You know why you don't want to do that? Because the quarterback might fumble, because the star linebacker strips him and saves the game for the team and saves the season and goes to the playoffs. Maybe we take a look at it.
No booth review.
We'll get into the Colts side of things. Reich getting criticized this morning for his late game management.
Be careful, everybody. Be careful.
T.Y. Hilton, I know, but we have to talk about our expectations for the Colts as a whole a little bit later on in the show. You, Schrags, alluded to Thursday nights in controversy. Well, let's bring in Ian Rappaport for the latest on what went down last week between the Browns and the Steelers. Rap Sheet joining us from New York. And defensive end Myles Garrett appealed his indefinite suspension in New York after his involvement in an altercation with the Steelers. What can you tell us about the result of that hearing?
Well, yesterday, Myles Garrett really filled the entire news day for a couple reasons. Let's start with the results of his appeals hearing. Appeals officer James Thrash upheld the NFL suspension, so Myles Garrett still suspended indefinitely, still out the rest of the season through the playoffs if the Browns make it. And then he has to meet with Commissioner Roger Goodell just to get clearance to get back on the field. He is also fined, I'm told, $35,000. But obviously, as we know, that is not all. There was a report that surfaced yesterday that Garrett, in his appeals hearing, accused Mason Rudolph of using a racial slur at him on the field, which then led, in the words of Garrett during this appeals hearing, him to take Mason Rudolph's helmet off and whack him with it. And obviously, the agent for Mason Rudolph came out very quickly, said it was false, a false allegation, a lie, and said it was an assault on Mason Rudolph's character. The NFL then came out, and remember, the NFL has use of all the natural sound from the field, all the audio they can get, the officials' reports, although there were no players specifically wired up by NFL Films for this game. They do have all the other sound. They ruled there was no evidence of a racial slur, and then Myles Garrett put out a statement shortly thereafter saying, "I know what I heard." Either way, all of that being said, Myles Garrett out for the rest of the season.
Out for this week's game. That includes the one in Cleveland. They are hosting the Miami Dolphins, I do believe, for Week 12. Thank you for the update, Ian, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more throughout the day and throughout Week 12 leading up to game day morning on Sunday. More Good Morning Football on the way. Highlights from